Hello there, and welcome to this session today, which is all about dealing with negative social media comments. And these can range from something quite mild that makes us think, is that a bit of a swipe? Or, they can, on the other end of the spectrum, it can be dealing with trolls and people who are incredibly nasty out there. So we're going to be looking at the whole range of different types of social media comments today. And we'll be looking at how to soothe ourselves and calm us down so that we're able to basically make informed decision about what to do about them. So a little bit about myself first. So my name is Paula Gardner, for those of you that don't know much about me or we haven't met. I was a PR. I had my own PR and marketing company called Do Your Own PR. I used to do PR for restaurants in London, various people in the music business. And then I moved into doing PR for businesses, ended up coaching and basically training businesses in how to do their own PR and marketing. I had 2 books around PR published. That was Do Your Own PR, and the other one was Get Noticed. And then 2016, I decided to actually take a different direction. And I retrained as a business psychologist. I went back to uni, got my master's, and I also did a professional coaching qualification. So I brought them into my PR and marketing. And then earlier this year, 2023, I qualified as a psychotherapist. So what I do now is I blend profile raising with psychology, coaching, and therapy. So I look at how to raise your profile in a way that puts your own well-being first and also uses your own personality traits, strengths, skills, and likes and dislikes so that it's sustainable and enjoyable. So I wonder what drew you to reading, about this, booking on, or what made you stop when you're seeing it on YouTube. When I work with clients who tell me that they've had issues with negative social media comments, they report a big range of emotions. So some of them feel confused, bewildered. Sometimes it's confused and bewildered about what to do. And sometimes it's confused and bewildered as to how somebody would, have the gall to post something like that. And I have to be honest, sometimes the people who post upsetting things on your social media can be friends, clients, colleagues. It does happen. Some of my clients talk about feeling angry, and some of them have even shown their anger on their feeds. There's often a feeling of being left out, alone, judged. On the more severe end of the spectrum, clients talk about feeling in bits. They just don't know what to do. They feel as if everybody is looking at what their next response is going to be. I've met one person who told me in retrospect that something that happened for them on social media actually made them want to shut their business down. It was that bad. It made them feel that bad. And shutting down is quite a common reaction. Shutting down your business is a very severe reaction, but sometimes when we feel criticized and stressed by the occasion, we do actually, feel ourselves shutting down. So all these are very, very common reactions when you see a negative comment on a post that you've put together. And perhaps, you've lovingly put that together and crafted it. And it can be really disappointing and very upsetting when somebody does that. And even if you have not had that experience, thankfully, sometimes just the fear of any of these can keep people from posting on social media. And, as we know nowadays, credibility comes with visibility, and you have to be out there and seen to be in the game. It is a bit of a game. And even if, you're on LinkedIn, which is, on the whole, I would feel one of the most professional platforms, then, there still is the risk of these negative comments. So if you have had a negative comment and you've felt any or more of these emotions, then please know that you are not on your own. So what's going on? So a little bit of biology here. It's very, very basic. So I apologize to any clinical psychologists or biologists who are listening to this. So this basically is a mechanism that dates right back to our ancestors. And they would have been out on the plains or in the jungle, and they would have been hunting. And perhaps they would have heard a rustle or a footstep quite close to them. What would have happened in their brains is that this little part here, the amygdala, would immediately send signals to the pituitary gland, which would release two strong chemicals, cortisol and adrenaline. Now, those chemicals are basically getting your body ready to fight or flight, to run away, because that rustle may be a predator in the bushes. And, we don't want to sit there thinking, oh, how heavy was that footstep? Maybe it was a kid, was it an adult, was it a panther? No, we're going to get killed if we do that. So our brain immediately goes into survival mode. Those chemicals are pumped through our body. And when that happens, we start to breathe more shallowly because we're getting ready to run or fight. The blood is draining and moving into our muscles. And we are basically getting ready to, to take action. Now, what happens when the adrenaline and the cortisol is in the body is that we have less access to this part of the brain, the thinking part of the brain. And this thinking part of the brain, we can often notice that if we are feeling a bit of brain fog, or we can't make decisions or find it hard to focus. So, and I've heard it said often, when people have had a negative comment or been trolled, then they find it hard to focus. They can't think clearly. And basically that clear thinking is what is necessary when this happens, and if it happens. So the first thing we need to do is to soothe ourselves, to bring down those emotional levels, that emotional arousal, because with it up there, we are going to be totally unable to make an informed decision about what to do with this post, with this comment. So you have to remember to soothe yourself, and we will do it in different ways. So important thing is to wait and calm ourselves. We can exercise, so run off that adrenaline and cortisol. If any of you have seen David Attenborough, documentary, and the antelope is being chased by the lion, the first thing it does when it gets itself to a safe place is that it just stands still and shakes, and basically that helps shake the adrenaline and the cortisol out of the body. Talk to a friend, choose the right one, make sure it's somebody who is going to calm you down, somebody who is going to be logical, rather than somebody that is going to hype you up and feed those fears. Ground yourself, just practice a sense of mindfulness. What can you see at the moment? Can you look out the window and see the leaves on the trees? What can you hear? What can you touch? What can you taste? Just bring yourself out of that emotional state and into, a more calm state. Almost all of us have our own go-to soothing mechanisms, and you'll know what will work. Sometimes it might be music, sometimes it might be just having a cuddle with your dog or the cat. Breathing is a tried and tested one. And today I am going to show you an exercise that is incredibly good for many, many aspects of life. And I will talk about that. But it is incredibly good if you have a moment like this when you want to react. But, instant reaction is not the right response. So the breathing exercise, it's called 7-11 breathing. So if you'd like to just make yourself comfortable, then maybe feet flat on the ground. You can close your eyes if you like. I'm just going to start noticing, just noticing your breathing. And for most of us, we breathe into our chests. It's very normal. And what I'd like you to do is just to move your attention to your tummy. Perhaps you can put your hand on your abdomen. And just start breathing into your tummy. And this brings more oxygen into our body. So if you start to feel lightheaded or dizzy, it's very much, perhaps a sign that you're breathing too shallowly. And just notice perhaps how on the in-breath, your ribs spread out, a bit like an umbrella opening up. And on the out-breath, they close back down again. That's it. Now we're just going to adjust that so that our out-breath is longer than our in-breath. So a nice easy way to remember this is 7 and 11. So that's breathing in for 7 and breathing out for 11. However, many people find that quite difficult, especially if you're used to shallow breathing. So you can try breathing in for 5 and out for 8, or in for 3 and out for 5. I'm just going to do that with you a moment. You can just continue while I tell you why it is so useful. What this does is it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So we have 2 nervous systems. We have the sympathetic nervous system, which is all about response, reaction, action, reaction to other people. And very much if you have a social media comment that's a bit negative, you are going to be in that nervous system. But we have another one called the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is about rest, relaxation, restoration, digestion, and sleep. So if you are in this parasympathetic nervous system, you are going to be soothing and calming your body. And that exercise, 7-11, is a nice, easy way just to drop into it. It's also very effective if you can't get to sleep. It really helps you calm down. If you wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes it may be able to get you off to sleep. But even if it can't, it is very useful in the fact that, you can be lying there and still resting. My top tip on this one actually is to do it throughout the day, not just when you need it. So I often say to clients, pop it on, every time you pop on the kettle, do some breathing, or perhaps every time you go into the bathroom, do some of this breathing. And that way you find it actually calms you through the day. So you can carry on like that, or you can just sort of wake yourself up with a bit of a shake. If you really need to be awake, you can rub your arms like that to make sure that you're fully awake. So, negative response on your social media, soothe yourself, use those things that I spoke about, or, just breathe, just calm yourself down. And after a while, you should feel that those emotional, those arousal levels are just coming down, and you're able to think a bit straighter. Now that you're calmed down, we have to think about what it is that we might do with different posts. And we have to hold two things in our heads at the same time. So the first thing is that there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And be very aware that sometimes, it may be an innocuous post, but because it's triggered something of our own, or because we're in a bad mood that day and especially sensitive, then, we have put our own negative lens or filter onto it. So we must be aware of that. But we must also be aware that people do get trolled, people do get attacked and criticized on social media. And there's been many studies showing that, in particular, women, ethnic minorities, religious groups, people with disabilities, and LGBTQ+, are more likely to be the subject of harassment on social media. So we have to be aware of that at the same time. It's quite a feat sometimes to be aware of those two things. And it's quite interesting from a sort of observing viewpoint. So sometimes being controversial and inviting or even engaging with those trolls is part of the brand. So we've got Katie Hopkins here on the left, who very much, that's very much part of her persona. Whether it's her actual personality, I don't know, but her online persona is very much welcoming and accepting the trolls and the comments and so on. It's part and package. And J.K. Rowling, she has a lot of criticism, many critics, many trolls, and so she has had to deal with that, and perhaps, by many of her statements, actually knows that they will appear as a consequence. So whether you are fans or not of these two, that's irrespective. What matters is that these are two women who, trolling, critical comments are part and package of their media profile. So too are the other women on the thing. So we have Meghan Markle, who, of course, just by her very fact that she's part of the royal family is going to attract comments. Diane Abbott, so a woman, a politician, a Black woman. I've been reading lots of stuff about how she has probably had the most and the ugliest criticism and trolling on the internet whatsoever. But even though there is trolling going on, there are negative social media comments going on, we can still retain a sense of power. So Viktor Frankl was a prisoner in a concentration camp back in the 40s. And he observed that the people who tended to survive and tended to keep their spirits up in some shape or form, they were more in control of their responses and choosing how to respond to things. So one of the things that he said was, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. So knowing this can really help us. So the stimulus being the post, the comment, the response being our response, like that gap, in that gap lies our chance, our opportunity to address this in the right way. So, as I said before, not rushing in, calming yourself so that you're able to do so. So let's have a look at some posts. And these are ones that I just took very randomly in a 10-minute search. So first of all, we have the troll post. And these are the ones that are just obviously nasty. Often they are not even commenting on the post, they're talking about your appearance. So with a face like that, it's no wonder your followers are dropping off. I saw when I was putting this together. And what does it add? It's very obvious that it's somebody just being nasty and irritating and annoying for the sake of it. Sometimes they are funny and it can make you laugh, you know, in the moment, but they don't add any value. They're distracting, but everybody knows this. Nobody really expects you to give them the time of day. And the reason I've got a castle on this slide is to remind you that your internet space, your social media space, whether it's your Twitter account, sorry, your X account, whether it's your Facebook page or group, your LinkedIn newsletter or post or Instagram page, this is your space. And by having your space, you need to take responsibility for it and be in your space. You can decide who you want in that space. And it may be that you don't want these trolls. Now, there are two conflicting sort of thoughts on this. So one group is very much just ignore and move on. You know, no, in the whole scheme of things, somebody might laugh, but they're not going to take the comments seriously. The other school is very much just delete them and clear up your space. So clear out your castle. Totally up to you, which you do. The issues with deleting is it might sort of be a bit incendiary and encourage them to come back under a different name. You know, repeating posts or even making them worse. It is a risk that you take. It might mean that you'd have to do a bit more clearing up. But, you know, hopefully at some point they will drop off and move on. However, this is a point to mention that very rarely, but occasionally, sometimes, you know, you do get disturbed people, nasty people, maybe even people that you know that are using social media to attack and stalk and behave badly. And we do have laws about this now. So if you feel that you are being targeted and abused by somebody online, make sure that you're capturing screenshots because they can delete things, obviously. Capture things with screenshots, prepare evidence, and then, you know, go to the police especially if you are feeling threatened. The other thing you can do with varying degrees of results is to inform the platform itself. So don't feel that you are powerless here. There are steps that you can take. I'm just going to stop sharing my slides for the moment and share with you a post from an Instagrammer that I got virtually introduced to, who basically makes fun of her trolls. So this is a guy who has posted on one of her posts and said, let's have a look at, I think, oh yes, he called her an ordinary ... We all know what that means, whore. So this is what she said. She's looked at his...
whore.
She's basically gathered pictures of him and doing the same back.
Let's have a look at some pictures of the guy.
So that's not something I would recommend for everyone. I think it very much has to be part of your personality to do that. But just, just to show you that some people do, play with these things. So next we have the questionable comment. And actually, I think this is one of the worst ones because it often comes from people that you know. So a questionable comment is one where it's quite hard for you to work out if somebody is being critical, if somebody is trying to shame you, or if somebody is being helpful. So here's one. I think you'll find that they answer to they, not she. Okay. What's difficult about this comment is that it plays on shame, guilt, and our fears of offending others. Because I would say for the majority of you, watching out there, we don't want to put something out there that offends somebody else. That would be the last thing on our minds. And then having somebody call attention to it is awful. It's not nice. And there's also a problem with the tone, because obviously we don't know what the tone is. It's text. So it seems helpful, but actually they're calling attention to a mistake that we've made. So my rule of thumb on this is that if they could have sent a DM and said, oh, Paula, actually they go by they, without bringing it to everybody else's attention, and I could have gone in, change whatever I post, and done it without offending anybody. If they could have done that in a DM to you, then I think, and they haven't, and then I think there's something going on here. So what do you do about it? So first of all, take the dignified approach. If you need to apologize, take it offline or into your DMs, do whatever you need to do to repair it. If somebody is, here's a good example actually. So a client of mine had a friend of theirs, nothing to do with business, but the friend had heard that the more input you get on social media, then the more it pushes it into people's feeds. So their intention was good. But what they were doing is that they were commenting on this person's posts, but always doing so in a way that was controversial and designed to question what they were saying. So if they, for instance, said that, feeling stressed is a precursor to anxiety, this friend would go, oh, that's very interesting, but I've heard that being anxious comes first before stress. And then, the original poster would have to go in and there would be this long sort of, conversation that doesn't really serve anybody. And the conversation would even be, questioning what the original poster posted in the first place. So questionable comments, not sure. Maybe you can take it offline and find out. If somebody's making a post that you're not quite sure what the tone is, just ask them to delete if necessary. But respond publicly in a way that leaves you still with your dignity. Here's the needs action comment. So this is something that can damage our brand. I worked with, insert your own name here if you like, last year. And to be honest, I found the experience underwhelming. So there's somebody that has, basically criticized you online. And this is an obvious criticism. So sometimes let's take social media to the side for a moment. Sometimes people can do these on reviews, like Google reviews. If you feel it is uncalled for, you can actually contact Google themselves, and because sometimes, competitors or people just do it for fun. Obviously, if it's a past client or customer, then that's a whole different thing. So let's just reassure you that if somebody's doing this as part of a campaign that's attacking you, you can go to Google or whoever, Trustpilot or whoever that might be. So the needs action, you need to clear it up. So again, this plays on our shame, guilt, fears of offending others or not being good enough. And it can damage your brand. So it's important, once again, to take the dignified approach. If you have to apologize, do so. There is nothing wrong with apologizing on social media, and actually doing it as soon as possible is a good idea if it's needed. And again, take offline oriented DMs. So in this case, you might say something like, "Oh, I was really, really sorry to hear that. Can we have a chat about what didn't live up to your expectations?" So you're taking it offline rather than airing all the dirty linen in public. And think about this as a cleanup. Cleaning up what people see about you and what, the comment is there. You can't really delete that one. But, you clean up, you show that you're responsive, you're apologetic if necessary, and you're willing to hear their side of the story. So next one is the pull you down comment. And I've called it pull you down rather than put you down for a reason. So this one looks quite attractive, but it is just going to pull you in. So here we are. Here's a comment. Actually, you're coming at this from a place of privilege here, and this shows a lack of sensitivity. So maybe this person is right, and maybe they've called you out. And again, that apologizing, dignified, even learning from them can be useful. But what if they're wrong? Or what if you believe they're wrong? So if you believe they're wrong, our natural instinct is to prove them wrong and prove ourselves right. But when it comes to social media, this can get a little bit dangerous. Because what happens is you end up fighting in public. And while that might be amusing for some of the people looking at the comments, it's not a great look for your brand. So this pull you down comment triggers your buttons. It might be a hot topic that you're particularly interested in. It could trigger your outrage, sense of justice. You may feel personally that they're wrong, and it can damage your brand. So what you need to remember here are your brand values. We'll be talking a little bit more about those in a moment. But your brand values, what are they? And keeping them in mind when you reply. Is it more important to be right here? How is that going to look if you push them, down to the ground? How are you going to look there? Or is there some truth in what they're saying? Can you learn from them? And with this one, more than ever, leave it time before responding. Because 30 minutes later, you may find that there's, 10 other comments that are, much more positive, and this one goes down. Don't just go away, because if those 10 comments are negatives, you're going to want to take control of this. But, just take your time and watch, observe. When I was working with a PR client many, many years ago, it was not a social media thing, it was a business that used Mumsnet. And quite a few people started making negative comments about her business. There was something about her business that wasn't sustainable, wasn't ecological minded, and some parts were being manufactured. I'm not quite sure, India or China or something like that. So there was some question around, the type of labor that she was using. And she basically ignored it, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And when we spoke about it, she basically had put her head in the sand over it. So what we did was we addressed the original comment about, the issues that they brought up. And to be honest, they were issues that are quite important. She thanked them for pointing it out. She showed them how she was working towards dealing with those things. So there were plans in the pipeline for improving the product. So she told them all about that. And she showed humility, like a willingness to learn from others. And she shared her story of the business and how it had grown, and what she had done stuff, why she had done stuff, why she had chosen this supplier. And she managed to turn it around. She got people very interested in her story. And that was a positive end to that. So things to remember: time, things move on very quickly. So something that might stress you out in the moment, that social media post is gone and forgotten when you actually revisit it. But that said, do not put your head in the sand and ignore. One thing that's nice to have up your sleeve is a social media buddy. So somebody that, you can phone and say, send a screenshot and say, actually, am I wrong in thinking they mean this? Or can you tell me if this is critical? I'm not sure if I'm reading it right. Somebody who you trust, somebody who you know is not going to want drama for the sake of it. And you can do that for each other. Another really important thing is to respond to the good comments. So not only focusing on the bad ones, but responding to the good ones so that anything dubious is drowned out. And also that people know, like, and trust you before the bad comment even happens. You've got a reputation for responding, for being, for listening to people, and so on. Know your brand values. So think through your brand values. I mentioned those before and how important they are. So thinking about what brand values you want to portray in your social media. So you could be a controversial brand. You could be a kind brand, an honest brand, leader, knowledgeable, sort of educational, funny. How can you bring these into your response rather than just responding from that fight or flight place? Think before you post. Our gut is amazing. So if you ever hesitate, it may be that your gut is telling you something. The easy rule: if you're ever hesitating about something, don't do it. But you can use your social media buddy if necessary. The other thing about the social media buddy that can be really useful is if somebody has posted something that, is questionable, they can actually post sort of on your behalf. Say, well, I don't think so-and-so deserves this because, or I think you've got it wrong here. So rather than you having to reply, it could be that your social media buddy could do it. As I've said before, do not post and disappear. Just keep an eye on it. Just monitor, especially if you think it's something that might, instill some feelings. If you're posting a picture of your pancakes and coffee, that's one thing. But, if you've got things about something political or something that, is going on, just keep an eye on it. Just monitor. Think like all the brands will do this. They will have somebody monitoring their social media. And, if you are growing your business, it's something that you will need to do too. There's a lovely phrase that they use in recovery, and it's to do with being angry or saying the wrong thing. And it is, does it have to be said? Does it have to be said now? And does it have to be said by me? So really, running everything, whether it's your post or whether it's a response to a negative social media post, just adds that extra layer of thoughtfulness to what's going on. So does it have to be said? Does it have to be said now? And does it have to be said by me? One thing that I've noticed is, sometimes if you don't jump in, somebody else will post exactly what you were going to say. So those are my 3 little rules that I suggest that you can bring into your social media. So just to go back to what I do, as I mentioned, I bring in well-being and business psychology into visibility. And there's a little offer for any of you that have sat through this to the end. So usually I have a visibility coaching package, which I offer for $1,500. There are a limited number of set days until the end of 2023. I think I've got about 10 days on there, where I'm offering this for the price of $997. And the actual package consists of a one-to-one session with me for about 3 hours. Now that can be online in Folkestone, where I live, or in London. So whichever of those suit both of us on that particular day. I find out what it is that you want to achieve. We look at your target audience, your message, but also, and really importantly for this, we look at your own strengths and skills, the likes and dislikes, the things you like doing, your personality traits. And then I go away and I put together a visibility strategy that's sustainable for you, one that you are going to enjoy. And then to help you put that into action, to help you embed it, we have 3 coaching sessions, which you can take at any point. You can have 3, bang, 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 to get it going, or you can have 1 and then another 1 in 3 months, another 1 in 6 months, totally up to you. So there is a link here where you can book your session, or you can email me, paula@scarletthinking.com, and we can book in a time to talk and book in the session then. So thank you for joining me. I hope that you have found it useful. It's a sticky subject, I know, and it can bring up lots of strong feelings. And as I said, the key to reacting well and reacting in a way that's good for your brand is to just soothe yourself, calm yourself, and then you can bring that logical side of your brain, that thinking part of your brain in. And then looking at the different types of critical posts, you can then decide what's the best course of action to do them. So thank you today, and please feel free, whether it's about the session today, whether it's about coaching or anything else to do with being a business owner and your well-being and mental health, please feel free to email me on paula@scarletthinking.com. Thank you for joining me.